Haunted homes around the world, secrets, legends, and mysteries. Good evening, everyone. I am really glad you are here, settling in with me for another quiet journey through the softer, stranger corners of our world. Tonight's story is not about danger or shock or anything that keeps you awake for the wrong reasons. Instead, it is about the gentle mystery of old houses, places that seem to breathe with memories long after the people who built them are gone. Across cultures and across centuries, human beings have always been fascinated by homes that feel different. Some stand in silence at the end of a lonely road. Some glow softly beneath streetlights, looking perfectly ordinary until you step inside and notice something you can't explain. And some have become world famous, not because of what we know, but because of what we do not. What makes a house feel haunted? It is rarely about dramatic events. Most of the time, it is a collection of small things. A creak in the floorboards, a cold draft where no window is open, a shadow that seems out of place. And even more often, it is the stories people tell passed down from one generation to the next, shaped by memories, imagination, and the very human habit of filling silence with meaning. Tonight, we are not here to prove anything or to declare what is real or unreal. We are simply here to explore why these places touch something deep inside us. Haunted houses, in a way, are mirrors. They reflect our curiosity about the past, our sensitivity to atmosphere, and our desire to feel connected to something bigger than ourselves. So take a breath, get comfortable, and let us step quietly into the history of the world's most famous haunted houses, one story at a time. The first house we are visiting tonight is one of the most talked about homes in modern American folklore, the Amityville House. Even if you have never followed the stories in detail, the name itself has probably drifted across your path at least once. It sits quietly in a peaceful neighborhood in Long Island, New York, an ordinary-looking place with white siding, a sloping lawn, and the kind of calm streets where people walk their dogs in the evening. Nothing about it suggests that it would one day become a symbol of mystery for an entire generation. The story that shaped its reputation begins with a very real tragedy that happened inside the house decades ago. That event, documented and widely reported at the time, created a foundation of sorrow that would later give rise to something much larger, the belief that the house carried an unusual presence. A new family moved in afterward, and in less than a month, they left, claiming they had experienced things they could not explain. Temperature shifts, strange sounds, unsettling feelings, moments of confusion. Their accounts spread quickly, turning the house into a national conversation. But what makes Amityville interesting is not just the claims, it is the debate surrounding them. Some people believe the family genuinely felt something they could not understand. Others think the stories were influenced by stress, memory, or the very human tendency to find meaning in the unknown. Over the years, researchers, journalists, psychologists, and curious visitors have offered countless interpretations, each adding a new layer to the legend. Whether the house holds anything unusual or not, its legacy is undeniable. It became a symbol, a reminder of how powerful atmosphere, storytelling, and the weight of history can be when they all settle into the same set of walls. Our next stop takes us to California, to a mansion that feels more like a dream someone kept building without ever waking up. The Winchester Mystery House is one of the world's most unusual architectural creations. Part home, part maze, part living, ? The story begins with Sarah Winchester, the widow of William Winchester, heir to a major American firearms company. After a period of profound personal loss, Sarah purchased a simple farmhouse in San Jose. What she built afterward was anything but simple. For nearly 4 decades, construction continued almost non-stop. Rooms were added to rooms, hallways stretched in unexpected directions, and new wings appeared without any sense of symmetry or practicality. Inside the house, you find staircases that lead straight into ceilings, doors that open to sudden drops, windows placed inside interior rooms, and corridors that twist and loop, as if intentionally trying to confuse anyone who walks through them. It feels like a puzzle built out of intuition rather than logic, a place shaped by emotion instead of blueprints. Over time, people began to wonder why Sarah chose to build this way. Some believed she felt guided by intuition or symbolism. Others thought she used construction as a form of distraction, a way to keep her mind busy. And eventually, a legend grew that the house was built to keep wandering spirits at bay, or to keep them company, depending on who told the story. No one can say for certain what Sarah intended, and maybe that is what makes the Winchester House so compelling. It is a physical expression of mystery, an enormous, quiet labyrinth that invites slow steps, long breaths, and a sense of wonder about the hidden corners of human emotion. From California's winding hallways, we travel to the American South, where the air hangs a little heavier and the stories feel older, slower, and more tangled with memory. The Myrtles Plantation in Louisiana is often called one of the most atmospheric homes in the region, wrapped in ancient oak trees, draped with long, flowing curtains of Spanish moss. Even before stepping inside, you feel as though the past is standing very close. The house itself is a beautiful example of Southern architecture: large porches, tall windows, and quiet rooms that once held generations of family life. But over time, its history has been woven together with a collection of legends, stories passed from one visitor to the next, each adding a shade of mystery to the house's identity. One of the most well-known tales involves a woman often referred to as Chloe. Different versions of her story exist, each shaped by oral storytelling rather than verified records. In some retellings, Chloe is described as someone who lived and worked on the property long ago. In others, she becomes a symbolic figure, an echo created by the region's complex and painful history. Visitors have long claimed that unusual things happen inside the house: unexpected reflections in old mirrors, soft footsteps when the rooms are empty, or a feeling of being watched from a corner that should be quiet. Many of these experiences have natural explanations: drafts, shifting floorboards, the suggestion of shadows cast by candle-shaped lights. But the stories persist, partly because the atmosphere invites them. What makes the Myrtles Plantation compelling is not whether its legends are literally true. It is how the house holds layers of human experience, joy, sorrow, memory, imagination, and how those layers gently blur into one another, creating a place where history and folklore live side by side. Crossing the Atlantic, we arrive in England, to a building often called the most haunted house in England, Borley Rectory. Nestled in the countryside of Essex, this rectory has long captured imaginations, not because of its architecture, but because of the countless tales that have grown up around it over time. Built in the 19th century, Borley Rectory was home to a succession of clergymen and their families. At first glance, it appeared to be a typical country house, with tidy lawns, quiet rooms, and the kind of calm that English villages are known for. But soon, reports began to emerge: strange noises in the night, fleeting shadows in the hallways, mysterious footsteps when no one was there. Visitors and residents alike began to speak of poltergeist-like occurrences, objects moving on their own, and the occasional sighting of ghostly figures. One of the key figures in Borley's story was Harry Price, a well-known paranormal investigator. He documented the events, interviewed witnesses, and wrote extensively about the rectory. His work both fascinated and frustrated the public. Some took his accounts as proof of the supernatural, while others accused him of exaggeration or even fabrication. Over the years, critics and skeptics have questioned almost every reported phenomenon, suggesting that illusions, misinterpretations, and the natural creaks of an old house could explain much of what people claim to see. Yet, despite debates over authenticity, Borley Rectory remains iconic. Its legend has endured because it represents something timeless, our desire to believe in mysteries that quietly coexist with ordinary life. Even after the rectory was partially destroyed by fire in the 20th century, the stories continued, a reminder that sometimes the power of a haunted house lies less in the building itself and more in the imaginations of those who walk through its halls. Moving north to Scotland, we find ourselves in the heart of Edinburgh, at a place steeped in history and shadows. Greyfriars Kirkyard. On its quiet, cobbled paths, the stories of centuries past linger in the stone walls and weathered gravestones, blending the tangible with the mysterious. Among the most famous legends associated with Greyfriars is that of the McKenzie Poltergeist. According to local accounts, the spirit of George McKenzie, a 17th-century judge known for his harsh treatment of prisoners, remains restless. Visitors have reported strange phenomena near his mausoleum: sudden cold drafts, unexplained scratches, objects being thrown, and even faint whispers when no one else is around. Some claim that touching certain monuments brings misfortune or strange sensations. What makes Greyfriars particularly compelling is how it mixes history and legend. The events that gave rise to these stories, Mackenzie's notorious reputation, and the graveyard's role as a historic site are well documented. But the reported paranormal experiences add a layer of personal, lived mystery that draws both skeptics and believers alike. Tourists from around the world visit, hoping to glimpse or feel the inexplicable, yet many leave with nothing more than the echo of old stones and the wind in the trees. As with many haunted locations, the McKenzie Poltergeist story persists because it connects people to something larger than themselves. It is not just about fear, it is about curiosity, reflection, and the sense that the past can linger in subtle, unseen ways. Greyfriars invites us to slow down, to listen, and to feel the weight of centuries passing through spaces that remain, quietly, in our imagination. Still in England, we venture to one of the oldest and most enigmatic buildings in the country, the ancient Ram Inn, located in Gloucestershire. Unlike grand mansions or plantations, this inn is small and unassuming. From the outside, a stone building with thick walls, low ceilings, and an air of quiet endurance that has survived for centuries. The inn dates back to the 12th century and has served many purposes over time, from a residence to a place of hospitality. But what makes it famous today is its long history of eerie stories and paranormal claims. Tales speak of hidden rooms, secret tunnels, and objects that move on their own. Visitors have reported cold spots, sudden noises, and glimpses of figures that vanish when approached. Some stories even suggest the presence of rituals long forgotten, remnants of a time when folklore and superstition governed daily life. The legend of the ancient Ram Inn is inseparable from its past. The building has been associated with pagan practices, local curses, and tragic events, all layered upon centuries of ordinary human activity. Over time, the inn has become a kind of living museum of fear, curiosity, and storytelling, where every beam and corner seems to hold a memory of the past. Yet, like many haunted locations, the inn's true power lies not just in what may or may not exist, but in how it makes people feel. It draws the imagination into the gaps between history and legend, inviting visitors to walk carefully, listen closely, and reflect on the stories that persist in quiet corners of the world. The ancient Ram Inn reminds us that some places are less about ghosts and more about the layers of human experience that linger in the spaces we leave behind. From the misty landscapes of England, we cross the ocean to New South Wales, Australia, where the Monte Cristo Homestead quietly stands in the town of Junee. Often described as the most haunted house in Australia, this grand Victorian mansion is as elegant as it is enigmatic, with ornate ironwork, tall windows, and polished wooden floors that seem to echo the footsteps of the past. The house's reputation grew from the tragedies that touched the family who once lived there. Stories speak of sudden deaths, mysterious accidents, and the lingering sorrow of those who never left. Over time, guests and investigators reported unusual occurrences, doors opening and closing by themselves, shadows moving in empty corridors, and fleeting glimpses of figures in period clothing appearing and disappearing without explanation. What makes Monte Cristo especially compelling is the way these stories interact with the house itself. Its design, with high ceilings, hidden alcoves, and long passageways, creates an atmosphere that naturally amplifies imagination. Even ordinary sounds, creaking floorboards, gusts of wind through slightly open windows take on a different quality in a space charged with history and narrative. Visitors to Monte Cristo often speak of a profound sense of connection to the past. Whether or not the house truly holds spirits, it acts as a vessel for memory, emotion, and storytelling. Each shadow, each unexplained noise, becomes part of a larger narrative about loss, endurance, and the human need to find meaning in places that feel alive beyond their walls. In a way, Monte Cristo Homestead illustrates a universal truth about haunted houses. It is not only what happens there, but also what we bring with us, our curiosity, our imagination, our reverence for history that shapes the stories that endure. Now, we travel to India, to a place where history and legend intertwine beneath the desert sun, Bhangarh Fort in Rajasthan. Often referred to as the most haunted place in India, Bhangarh is an abandoned city rather than a single house. Yet its deserted streets, crumbling walls, and empty courtyards give it the atmosphere of a place frozen between past and present. The fort was built in the 17th century and thrived for many years before falling into decline. Local folklore tells of a curse that led to the city's abandonment. The story goes that a local priest or magician placed a curse, and as a result, the town and its inhabitants vanished, leaving only the stone buildings behind. Today, the fort stands silent, a reminder of impermanence, tragedy, and mystery. Visitors report a strange stillness in the air, a feeling of being watched, and sudden chills when walking through the fort's corridors. There are strict warnings issued by local authorities not to enter after dark, which has only enhanced the fort's eerie reputation. Despite or perhaps because of these tales, Bhangarh has become a destination for those fascinated by the unknown, offering both a glimpse into India's rich history and a brush with legend. What makes Bhangarh compelling is its blending of the historical and the supernatural. The fort is real, grounded in architecture and archaeology, but the stories that surround it are products of human imagination and oral tradition. Visitors leave with impressions that are part experience, part myth, proof, perhaps, that the allure of haunted places lies not only in fear, but in the way they stir our curiosity, respect for history, and appreciation for stories that refuse to fade with time. From India, we travel east to Japan, to a place where nature and legend blend in quiet, haunting ways. The Aokigahara Forest at the base of Mount Fuji. Unlike the homes and forts we have visited, this forest is vast and open, yet it carries a reputation that has inspired countless stories of spirits, wandering souls, and otherworldly presence. Aokigahara has been part of Japanese mythology for centuries. Often referred to as the Sea of Trees, its dense woods, twisted roots, and thick canopy create an almost otherworldly atmosphere. Legends speak of spirits of the departed lingering among the trees, of voices that echo in the silence, and of travelers who have felt an unseen presence guiding or warning them along hidden paths. These stories are deeply tied to cultural beliefs about life, death, and the spiritual world. Visitors today often describe a profound stillness when walking through the forest. The air feels different, heavy, yet calm, as if holding countless stories in its shade. While the forest has gained notoriety in modern times for darker reasons, its legendary status as a place where the boundaries between the living and the spiritual feel thin remains powerful. People come seeking solitude, reflection, or simply the experience of being somewhere ancient, mysterious, and profoundly silent. Aokigahara reminds us that haunted spaces are not always about buildings, creaking floorboards, or flickering lights. Sometimes the land itself carries an energy, a sense of memory and presence that we interpret through story, imagination, and cultural tradition. In every quiet rustle of leaves, every winding path, the forest invites us to listen, observe, and consider how humans have always sought connection with the unknown. After exploring haunted houses and mysterious locations around the world, a question naturally arises: why do people believe in haunted places at all? It is not just about ghosts, shadows, or strange noises. Belief in haunted spaces is deeply tied to human psychology, culture, and the stories we pass down through generations. One reason is our desire to make sense of the unknown. Humans are naturally pattern-seeking creatures. When something unusual happens, a creaking floorboard, a draft in a room, a shadow flickering in the corner, our minds instinctively try to interpret it. In some cases, the explanation is perfectly ordinary, yet our imagination fills the gaps, crafting narratives that make the unexplained feel meaningful. Culture and folklore also play a huge role. Each region has its own myths and traditions about spirits, the afterlife, and sacred or cursed spaces. These stories are taught from childhood, shaping how we perceive strange events. When a location has a reputation for being haunted, visitors often arrive with expectations, which can influence how they interpret ordinary sensations as paranormal experiences. Emotions and memory further deepen these beliefs. Haunted places often carry histories of tragedy, loss, or strong emotional energy. People are naturally empathetic. They may sense or imagine the lingering feelings of past inhabitants. Over time, personal experiences, stories from others, and cultural context reinforce one another, creating a rich tapestry of belief that can feel very real even without any tangible evidence. Ultimately, haunted houses and legendary locations endure because they connect us with something larger than ourselves: history, mystery, and the human imagination. Belief in haunted spaces is less about proving the supernatural and more about the stories we tell, the emotions we feel, and the wonder we carry as we explore the unknown. In today's world, haunted locations have become more than stories. They are destinations. From historic mansions to abandoned forts, people travel across countries to experience the atmosphere, hear the legends, and, for some, hope for a glimpse of the unexplained. This phenomenon, often called ghost tourism, blends history, culture, and imagination into a unique form of travel. Haunted sites offer a different kind of connection. Visitors do not just see architecture. They feel the echoes of the past. Walking through dimly lit corridors, ancient forests, or empty courtyards, people sense centuries of human experience embedded in the walls, trees, and stones. Tour guides often share stories handed down through generations, creating an experience that is both educational and immersive. The combination of tangible history and the intangible thrill of the unknown makes these locations uniquely compelling. There is also an economic dimension. Communities with famous haunted sites often rely on tourism for support, hosting guided tours, exhibitions, and special events. Yet, there is a delicate balance between curiosity and respect. Responsible ghost tourism encourages visitors to appreciate the history and stories without exploiting tragedy or fear. Ultimately, modern ghost tourism reflects a timeless human fascination. It is about our desire to explore mystery, understand the past, and connect with something beyond our immediate perception. Haunted houses, forts, plantations, and forests become mirrors for our imagination, inviting reflection, wonder, and even quiet contemplation. From Amityville to Aokigahara, haunted houses and mysterious places across the world reveal something fundamental about humanity. They remind us that stories are powerful, that history lingers in spaces, and that our imagination shapes how we experience the world. Whether through creaking floorboards, shadowy corridors, or whispered legends, these locations invite us to slow down, listen, and feel the presence of history in a way that is calm, reflective, and quietly mysterious. So, as we conclude tonight's journey, take a moment to consider the places you pass every day. Perhaps a house, a street, or a quiet corner hold stories yet untold. And even if there are no ghosts, the memories, mysteries, and imagination they inspire are very real. Thank you for joining me on this exploration, and until next time, keep your curiosity alive and your mind open to the quiet wonders of the world. Seo description. Siêu 224. Explore the world's most famous haunted houses in this calm and immersive journey through history, legend, and mystery. From the chilling corridors of the Amityville House in the USA to the labyrinthine Winchester Mystery House and the tragic tales of Myrtles Plantation, each location carries centuries of stories that blend fact, folklore, and imagination. Travel to Borley Rectory in England. Experience the eerie legends of Edinburgh's Greyfriars and the McKenzie Poltergeist, and wander through the ancient Ram Inn, where history and the unexplained intertwine. Cross continents to Australia's Monte Cristo Homestead, India's cursed Bhangarh Fort, and Japan's mysterious Aokigahara Forest, discovering how haunted places reflect human curiosity, memory, and culture. Learn why we are drawn to haunted spaces, the psychology behind belief, and the rise of modern ghost tourism. This video is a quiet exploration of haunted homes, perfect for history lovers, curious minds, and those who enjoy atmospheric storytelling. Step softly, listen closely, and discover the mysteries hidden in the world's most haunted locations. Hashtags: Number haunted houses, number haunted history, number ghost stories, number haunted places, number Amityville, number Winchester Mystery House, number Myrtles Plantation, number Borley Rectory, Greyfriars, McKenzie Poltergeist, Ancient Trayman, number Monte Cristo Homestead, number Bhangarh Fort, number Aokigahara, number Ghost Tourism, number Haunted Travel, number Paranormal, number mystery history, number true history, number boring history for sleep.